What's up, tennis fans? We had four straightforward quarterfinals, and now we got two packed semifinals. Let's take a look at the matchups. Before we take a look at the matchups, let's look at our quarterfinal record for everybody that contributed. Myself, Panda, Pomplamoose, all 3-1. The walk-on having an undefeated 4-0. Very impressive for a first-time contributor. So we definitely got to follow his picks in the future. But let's now take a look at the matchups. So tonight we have another contributor. I'm joined with Houdini, and he's going to be giving us his picks as well. But first, I want to go through this matchup. We have Alcaraz against Medvedev. Before we even look at the head-to-head, let's talk about the matches. We have Alcaraz just got through a pretty straightforward match against Norrie. There wasn't really much that Norrie could do, and kind of like what we had said last night, that Norrie backhand was just really like a blatant weakness. Carlos being able to target it, and his forehand was just on full display tonight, being able to do whatever he wanted. Served really well, and just a very straightforward 6-3, 6-4 win. Medvedev took on Jack Draper, and we remember Draper obviously having that big win over Djokovic last night, and we did talk about whether he was going to be able to bounce back and kind of have another quality win, and that was the one thing that I was really concerned with. And today, Medvedev was just an absolute wall. Like everything that Draper was throwing at him, whether it was short balls, drop shots. I did say, the drop shot could be a factor here because we have Medvedev so far back on the baseline, but there just was nothing that Draper threw at him that really bothered him. Medvedev was able to get through the first set 6-1, and obviously extremely important to get on top of Draper really early, just to kind of, you got a guy that's coming off this long late night match, to get on top of him early 6-1, and then being able to get a late break there 7-5 for the win. So we have their matchup. Their head-to-head there is 6-2 for Alcaraz. Last match came in October of 2024 in Beijing. Alcaraz won 7-5, 6-3. And Medvedev has not beaten Alcaraz since the U.S. Open in 2023 semifinal. That was 7-6, 6-1, 3-6, 6-3, a win for Medvedev. And if you guys remember that one, that was actually the matchup. I think Djokovic and Alcaraz had a really big Cincinnati Masters final. It was just like an absolute classic, and everyone was waiting for the Alcaraz-Djokovic final at the U.S. Open. We didn't get it. Medvedev able to pull off the upset there. So for me, guys, this is a really tough matchup. I really like the defense of Medvedev. He's playing great ball, but now he's going up against the best. He's going up against the guy that hasn't lost a match this year. Medvedev himself, 17-2 on the outdoor hard courts. Alcaraz is 15-0 on the outdoor hard courts. This is going to be a three-setter in my opinion. I think this is really it's going to take a little bit for Carlos to beat Medvedev, but I'm going to go with Carlos in 3 sets. Houdini, give me some analysis, and what do you kind of think is going to happen in this match?
For my analysis, just going back from last time these two competed, especially at Indian Wells final, I think 2023 or 2022 that was, maybe. If my memory,
2024.
2024.
Yeah.
Alcaraz was wearing a pink shirt. That's what I remember. But the blatant weakness that I saw in that match was Medvedev's way too far back on the return. Alcaraz used his off-pace serves, pulling Medvedev even further into the court. And the drop shot and the forehand, that combo was just deadly for somebody that plays like a defensive counter-punching type of game like Medvedev. He's just so far back into the court, so I just think I could see this potentially going 3 sets because Alcaraz has had some slips in sets where, like the Rinderknecht match, for example, where you could just lose focus for a couple of points and that could take a set. But ultimately, I think it's going to be Alcaraz in straights.
Okay, yeah. And I definitely think it's going to be Alcaraz one way or another. Talk to me about what do you think the speed of the core. Obviously, like you said, we've seen them in Indian Wells twice actually. So we saw them in 2024 in the final, 7-6, 6-1 win for Carlos, and then 2023 In another final, 6-3, 6-2. So now we have the courts are slow. We know they're always slow. Now the balls are even slower.
Yeah.
What does that do now for the Medvedev game? Is this going to be better, worse? Is it going to help Carlos a little bit more? What do you think?
Worse for Medvedev rather.
Yeah.
I think. Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the ball is being slower and they fluff up more. Medvedev's been complaining about them all year already.
Yep.
So it just gives Alcaraz more time to decide what he wants to do with the forehand again. If Medvedev is trying to do what he's been saying he wants to do, kind of like Zverev, play more aggressive tennis, maybe try to rush Alcaraz. Maybe he could, disrupt his rhythm a little bit. But other than that, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit tricky for him to be able to get a hold of the match. I don't think there's ever going to be a moment where we're really going to see Medvedev dominating. I think he's always just going to be counter-punching and punching a little bit along there. But, guys, both our picks, I'm going Alcaraz in 3, Houdini's going Alcaraz in 2.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to the next match. Next match we have Zverev playing Sinner. And this is a popcorn match here. Really excited about this one. We have Zverev getting through Arthur Fils. Really disappointed with Arthur Fils, guys. Obviously, I picked him as my sleeper. I thought he was going to be able to come out of that quarter, make the semifinals. Just didn't have it. And honestly, watching him beat Felix, I thought maybe he was going to be able to pull this upset, but he really wasn't even close. There were too many errors, too many unforced errors, and the one thing that stood out the most to me was the serve. It was we talk about the pressure that Zverev puts on all of his opponents with his serve. Zverev serving at 71%, winning 75% of those points. Then you have the Arthur Fils serve, 4 double faults. First serve percentage at 55%, winning only 55% of those points. That is just not going to win you matches against top 10 guys. It might not even win you matches against top 25 guys. Just a very poor showing from Arthur Fils. I was a little bit disappointed. The forehand for Arthur Fils was still on display, but he started this match and he went down. He went down a break early, and we always talk about if you're an underdog, you don't want to dig a bigger hole for you than you already have, right? You're already trying to punch up. So if you're digging this hole even bigger, it's so much harder for you to come back, and the pressure starts to mount a little bit more for you. So Zverev's able to get through that one, 6-2, 6-3, barely a challenge for him. Now, you know what else was also barely a challenge? Sinner beating Tien. And guys, this match, I watched this match. If you showed me clips from this match, I would never be able to tell you the score. They had some amazing rallies. Just a lot of back and forth. But the one thing that last night when we had Panda and the walk-on on, the one thing that we brought up was Tien just can't hit offense. He has no big weapon. And that was the thing that made the difference. Sinner would kind of they'd have these 20-shot rallies, and then Sinner would just pull this massive forehand out, and Tien would have no response. Maybe he could slice it back, but again, then comes another monster forehand from Sinner. Sinner's serve was on, his forehand was on. He looked really great. I thought it was going to be much closer. I think I called Sinner in 3. It wasn't even close to that. Tien only got 3 games. Last time he got only 4 games. Now we're getting worse. So hopefully him and Michael Chen can kind of go back to the drawing board and maybe figure out a way to beat Jannik Sinner for the next time. But Sinner's able to get through this match 6-1, 6-2. Now we look at Zverev against Sinner, and looking at their head-to-head, it is 6-4 for Sinner. And they played 4 times last year. So let's go through. The first matchup was in Australia. Sinner was able to win that in the finals, you guys remember, of the Australian Open, 6-3, 7-6, 6-3. And remember, that was the one that Zverev was able to get through the semifinals after Djokovic was sick in Australia in the semifinals.
No,
he was hurt.
Injured.
He was hurt.
He retired in the second set.
Yeah, he retired in the second set. He lost a top breaker in that one. Then they played in Vienna, and this was a much closer match. Sinner still able to win, 3-6, 6-3, 7-5 in the finals. Then they met in the Paris Masters semifinal, and everyone was talking about, maybe Zverev's going to be able to make this move and beat Sinner because he had played that 3-setter in Vienna. But Sinner's able to take care of him 6-0, 6-1. And then they play again in Turin. Now we know this is home court advantage here for Sinner. and he's able to win 6-4, 6-3 in the round robin stage. So their last meeting was a 6-4, 6-3 win. Now the last 3 meetings were on indoor hard courts. The outdoor meeting was, of course, the Australian Open. Looking at their hard court record, we have Sinner, who's sitting at 11-2. We noted the Mensik loss in Doha. Again, Mensik, good job just stepping up on the baseline, redirecting the power of Sinner. Thought Tien was going to be able to do that. He's not able to do that just yet. Novak Djokovic, the loss in the Australian Open in 5 sets after a 2-1 lead for Sinner. He struggles to get through that tournament and loses to Novak. Zverev is 11-3 on the outdoor hard courts, with losses to Alcaraz and Kekmanovic. For me, guys, I think this is going to be a really tricky match. I think the outdoor, I think the surface slows up the courts, but I do think Zverev, especially with that serve, he's going to want a faster court, I think, to kind of just like hit through and keep dominating. Now, his serve against Alcaraz in the semifinals of the Australian Open, I thought was still phenomenal. He had some sets where he was serving close to almost 80% for his serves, and that's great, and that's what he has to do to beat these guys, because I'm telling you, if we get into rallies, I just don't trust Zverev to win the rallies against the Sinners, the Alcarazes, the Djokovic's of the world. For me, guys, we started this tournament. I told you guys I was going to pick all chalk, and I did. Alcaraz to win, Sinner in the final. So I'm going to pick Sinner to get through this one. It's going to be a 3-setter. Sinner in 3. Houdini, give me some analysis and tell me where you're going.
Frankly, I'm caught in between two different things, mainly because I want to see the timing of the match. If it's going to be played at night or if it's going to be played during the day. I feel like that actually plays a big part. Because in the day, slower conditions, I feel like that actually suits Zverev's game a little bit more. Gives him a little bit more time on the baseline to figure out what he wants to do and he wants to construct points and hopefully try and get himself to the net, where I think he's going to be very successful against Sinner in rushing him. Whereas, at night, the conditions suit more Sinner, I think, more like playing like an indoor type of court. But, Zverev's my guy, so I got to go with him. I think I'm going to go with Zverev in 3. It's probably not going to happen. I think Sinner's going to probably try and find a way in the 3rd set, but I'm going to root with my guy.
Yeah, you never know, too. Like, obviously, we saw the cramps against Spizzirri in the Australian Open, so you never know with Sinner. Like, not really like it's health things, but like, he could, there could be something here, and we know Zverev is a tank. Like, he's as fit as can be. Yeah. Like, he can get through any of these longer matches. So maybe it's a benefit for him if they do play during the day. Something you guys got to look out for. I just checked the schedule. I don't see one out yet for who's going to be during the day or at night. My guess is I feel like the Alcaraz camp really likes the night sessions.
So I think they're gonna try and get.
I think they're gonna give him the night session, and Sinner's gonna take the day. But they might make both of these at night. I'm not really sure. Houdini, before I let you go, let me know, who do you think is gonna win this tournament? So you just picked Zverev. You picked Zverev, right?
I picked Zverev to win this.
Okay. So you picked Zverev.
Zverev in 3.
Okay, you pick Zverev to win this match. He's going to come out and play Alcaraz.
In the final, yeah. Where I think
Alcaraz is going
to win the straights.
Straights, okay.
Yeah.
And you had a pretty hot take that you were telling me off the air about Alcaraz's first win. And this is something that, guys, we hope we can kind of maybe see a little bit of history. Maybe he can go into the French undefeated. But talk to me a little bit about when you think his first loss is going to come. And why?
Well, my first loss prediction for Alcaraz was, I thought the first thing that I told, Sleepy here, sorry, I was blanking, was that Alcaraz is gonna make it to Wimbledon and not have a loss, but that's also because I thought he was gonna break Djokovic's record of, I think it was 41 matches consecutive. until the French where he lost to Federer.
Yep.
My reasoning is I think it all plays on the fact that he has to win this tournament and then skip Miami, because I think it's tough for him to win Indian Wells and Miami back to back, 2 weeks in a row. It's a tough turnaround. So I think he would have to skip Miami and make it to the French, or make it to the clay court season rather, where I think he's going to be successful in Monte Carlo. I think he could be successful in Barcelona, where he has to play basically. He's guaranteed to play, or in Madrid and Rome. And the French Open, I don't think anybody's beating him on clay. And lastly, you get to the grass court season, where I think he's probably the best grass court player in the world right now. And he's more than likely going to play a tune-up event like Halle, like he did last year. Maybe he skips that if he wins the French, I don't know. But I think he's going to win that tournament probably routinely. And then you get to Wimbledon, where it's tough. But yeah, I just don't see somebody, challenging this guy, because he's just such a complete player. And he can adapt to any surface and any environment. So I think with time and with good health, he can pull off a good run until after Wimbledon.
Yeah. And I think, something that we're seeing more with these players is they are load managing a lot more. Like they are taking some tournaments off. Now, sometimes that does cost them maybe a little bit of money out of the purse, but it matters to them. They want to perform. They want to peak at the right times, at the Grand Slams, at the Masters Series, and a lot of these slams, they're weirdly spaced apart. They're not like month by month apart. They're spaced very differently. So you have to manage your time and how much you're playing, and your comfortability on like the certain surface. Like, will Alcaraz play tune-up for the grass? We don't know. I still think it's a pretty hot take, to say maybe he might not even lose Wimbledon. He might be going into the summer season undefeated. But at the same time, I don't count it out of the realm of possibilities. Like I can see a world where he doesn't lose a match, because guys, like we've seen Alcaraz with his back up against the wall, and he always finds ways to win. He's got a great coaching staff. He's got guys that are going to break down each of these players, and he's seen almost every single one of these guys. So, like, it's really tough on any of these surfaces to see Carlos losing one of these matches. Now, we have seen him in the last few years kind of dump in some very weird matches, but like Houdini said, we saw him get to the semis against Draper in the Indian Wells. He loses to Gonfin in 3 sets in Miami. If he takes Miami off, maybe that loss doesn't even come in. So definitely want to look at that. I kind of like, and I hate it for the fans. I hate like these players missing these tournaments, because obviously the fans are buying tickets to watch some of the top guys. But I kind of like the idea, having these two hardcore Master Series kind of smack in the middle, and then we go right to clay. If Carlos can take Miami off and kind of get an extra week or two on the clay, he's going to be very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all we got for now, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks again for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share your picks in the video. Share the comments. I think these two matchups are going to be really competitive, so we're really looking forward to them. Looking forward to the next video. I'll see you guys later.